Thank you. I'm really enjoying these 2 days, and I think I mentioned yesterday at the beginning how, you know, the first person that needs to learn something in these 2 days is me. And in the first session, that first praise and worship session, I've just been crying both days. Because when God and the Holy Spirit fill the room, something happens. Something happens in here, something happens in our hearts, something happens in our businesses that doesn't ordinarily happen. Last night I had a dream. I had a dream. I do dream a lot. I have lots of different dreams. Not all of them mean anything. David said yesterday, some are just sort of pizza dreams or curry dreams. But I know when something is specific. This one was specific. It was specific for me, and I believe the Lord wants me to share it for you. The dream was, it was interesting because it was a black and white dream. And usually I think with the black and white dream, you've got colour dreams and you've got black and white dreams. I tend to see the black and white dreams as being a simple message for me. It's nothing that's not too much to read into it. It's very simple. And so I was high above, so my view of this dream looking down, I was up above, and what I was looking down, it was like, imagine this is the beginning of the foreshore, say the beach, and might have been like a river or a lake of some sort, and what I saw was half a crocodile. It was sort of sticking out, wasn't completely on the beach, but it wasn't completely in the water either. And then I saw this dog that looked like a lassie, right, come up and bite it on the side. And indeed, did that create something. All of a sudden, that crocodile, which was huge, and all these other crocodiles came around and started circling the dog, which was tiny compared to these crocodiles. Now, this dog was sort of snapping at all of them, trying to fend them off and keep them at bay, but they started to encircle the dog. And I thought, I'm looking from above, right? And I'm just seeing this. I'm thinking, that dog's gone. It's gone. And just before they encircle it, just before that circle closes, there's this massive dog which looked like a wolf, comes straight down the middle. And it's right at the front. And these other wolves are right behind it coming through. And it came in. And it picked up this little dog that was going to get eaten alive, and with its snout just picked it up and flicked it to safety. Flicked it out of the way and said, "We got this." And all these other wolves came down, and the crocodiles started to retreat. And they were just, in the movies how you see these wolves and they're menacing and they're strong and they're snarling. Well, that's what these were like. And those crocodiles just sort of started to retreat and back and back and back. And they just came down further and pushed them back into the river, lake, whatever it was. And I was talking to Katina this morning. I said, I had a dream. She goes, "Okay, tell me." After I said it to Katina, she said, "What do you think it means?" I said, "I don't know. That's why I've got you." So we just prayed over it, and she said, "I think it means be careful either who you bite, or maybe don't bite off more than you can chew. Maybe be careful what you take on. But always know, if you do take it on and you mess it up and it's not quite right and you think it's the end, He's got our back." And I think that's the message for me, certainly. But I want to encourage you this morning, if you've got stuff going on and you feel there's pressure and the pressure is mounting and you're getting circled, and just know that God's got your back. He's got our back, and He's stronger than anything that we could ever encounter. So I just wanted to share that this morning, because just in praise and worship as well, it was just, He reminded me, and I just felt, He just said, "Look, I just want you to share it." And just as I share that, it's good for me again, because I'm hearing it. So I just want to encourage you. Okay. Welcome to those who weren't here yesterday. I met lovely lady before we were talking. Welcome today. We're talking about wealth creation. We're talking about wealth. We're talking about this term prosper or this word prosper, and we're saying how our Father wants us to prosper. In the same way that as parents, those of you that are parents, in the same way as parents, we want our kids to prosper in every aspect of their lives. Our Father is no different. And so we want to get away from money and no, we should be careful and it's evil. Our Father wants us to prosper. And yes, there are times where He's going to give us things, and yes, there are times where prospering means He's going to take things away or He's going to hold off on things. So I love this analogy. And when the Bible gives analogies, there's a reason why He says it's like a father. There's a reason why the Bible says become like children. There's a reason why these parables are used. And so we need to just sort of focus on them. So our Father wants us to prosper. So in that context, I want to have a talk today about wealth creation, but in particular about having a plan. And we'll get to this afternoon where we're talking about what that plan looks like and the 5 P's to financial prosperity, as I call it. So in yesterday's discussion, I shared my story about my journey through depression and how that brought me to where I am today, how 3P was born, which is the name of our business. 3P was born. We have a passion for people to prosper, and how it all came about and where things are today. And the other thing that we covered in the second session was around, so what is the ultimate wealth creation tool? You remember we went through some of the aspects that, a tool should have. We spoke a little bit about property and shares, and there's people that are sort of right down the property track. There's others who are right down the share track, and there are others that maybe do a bit of both but are focused on business. And so today in this first session, I want to cover off on a few things, because in the last 30 years of doing this, I've found that people have 3 main problems when it comes to dealing with their finances. The first one is they have no direction. Right? There's no direction to what they're doing. They don't know the direction that they're heading. We might just start that slide because I've already gone ahead. Sorry, Noah. Okay, there's no direction. So they don't know if they're on track. The second problem is that they don't have any clarity. Right? There's no clarity. Oh, there's no plan. Sorry, there's no plan. The Bible says, where's my phone? Sweetheart, can you give me my phone? I do have a verse on there, thanks. When we're talking about planning, in Proverbs 24:3-4, it says, by wisdom a house is built, and through understanding it is established. Through knowledge its rooms are filled with rare and beautiful treasures. So what we're doing this weekend is we're combining the spiritual and this practical part as well. Now, that's a verse that talks about having knowledge. It talks about having planning, and its rooms are established as a result of all this, and they're filled with rare and beautiful stuff. Now, who wants some rare and beautiful stuff? Yes, I do. Right? We do. And when our house is filled with rare and beautiful stuff, what does that mean? It becomes enticing for people to come along with us in the journey, and then all of a sudden we're sharing Jesus with them. And Jesus finishes off in Matthew 7:24. He says, well, therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. So what we're trying to do today is set a bit of a foundation. So as we go through these problems that people have, we said there's no direction, there's no plan. How many people I still meet who say, okay, well, what's your plan? Well, I don't have a plan. I might have a business plan. There are people in business that do get a business plan that's done by an accountant. But what happens is it ends up in the top drawer. It's not implemented. There are others when we're talking about their personal wealth and say, okay, well, what's your plan? Where are you heading? Where is all this going? I'm not sure. I've bought some property. I've invested in shares. Some of it's gone wrong. Right? We've all made mistakes. I mentioned yesterday the big mistake that I made, or the mistakes. I didn't go into detail. Maybe that's for another day. And so we don't have any plans. So that's the second mistake. The third mistake that people make, or the problem number 3, sorry, we're getting to the mistakes. The problem number 3 is they don't know who to trust. They don't know who to speak to, and they don't know who to trust. Our industry is littered with people who are not trustworthy, unfortunately. Some of them are not trustworthy because they're those type of people, but also there are others who are not trustworthy because the industry and the structure has been like this for so long. We're talking with Stefan earlier, who's been in the industry for so long. The structure has been this structure that's not conducive to being completely honest. As an accountant, I was taught to act with, honesty and integrity and act in the best interest of the client. I came into financial planning. You know what the criteria was? The criteria was you must make recommendations that are appropriate for the client, which is completely different to acting in the best interest of the client. So if I have 3 products to sell you, all of them are appropriate. If product number 1 gives me the best commission, but product number 2 is in your best interest, remember they're all appropriate for you, guess which product you're going to get? Because no one's going to question me or whether product number 1 was in your best interest. Now that's all changed as a few years ago. It's good, you'll be very thankful to know. So now there is this fiduciary obligation on advisors to ensure that we act in the client's best interest, and we have to show that in the form of what's called a statement of advice or a financial plan. So if you engage an advisor, you'll hear this sort of language as you go through it, and they have to show you, how is this in your best interest? And as a result of going through this process, how has it made you better? How are you in a better position to what you were before? Well, now you were given options, you were given advice that technically help you achieve your goals and objectives. Now you're in a better position to make an informed decision. Okay? So number 3, the problem that people have is, who do I trust or who do I speak to? I don't know. And it's one thing that I commonly hear, and I get people that are coming to me and they say, you know what? We saw a financial advisor years ago, but we got burnt. We saw one years ago, and he or she was good. I liked them, but there just wasn't enough in there. We just felt that they just sort of sold us a product and sort of let us be. And now the industry or regulators are making it a profession so that now you cannot practice as a financial planner without having a degree. Right? So there's a transition period, but that's what's happening because we've got to get to that level. We're dealing with clients' finances and their lives and money to a point where there's a significant impact on people's lives. So we can't be mucking around with this sort of thing. Right? So these are the problems that I've found in the last 30 years that people have been facing. As a result of having these problems, there are 4 mistakes that people make. So we go through the first mistake is they procrastinate. Procrastination. I'll get to it tomorrow. I know that I need to speak to someone. I know we can be doing better than what we're doing. And yes, we'll get to it. It's like me. Yes, I need to lose weight one day. Procrastinate. Okay? Procrastination. They listen to a family member or friend. Haven't we all got those? You attend a dinner, you go to a party, you speak to someone, and there's always someone that's going to tell you how they've done it. You'll never hear the mistakes that they've made. You'll never know what their personal circumstances are like, but you'll hear what they've done that supposedly does work. And this is the thing. David spoke yesterday from a spiritual perspective. You're in your own lane, right? We're running our own race here. My race, my lane is completely different to all of yours, and I wouldn't be in business if everyone's circumstances weren't completely different. Yes, the principles that we work on, the advice that we give clients is the same in that overlay, but it needs to be tailored to the particular circumstances of the client. And that's the skill of the advisor, is to say, okay, your circumstances are a little bit different here. I reckon there's sort of 2 options that you can consider. Right? Everyone's circumstances are different. So never listen just on face value or take advice from someone, particularly where it's like a soundbite. Yesterday we spoke about the media. Well, it's a soundbite. It's like, oh, yeah, what do you do? Oh, well, crypto. Right? Crypto's the latest thing. So never just listen to anyone's. Take it on board. Maybe have a discussion about it, but don't. There's a mistake when people listen to that. They ask Google. They ask Google. Google searches are filled with everything about wealth and money. It's interesting because prosperity is it's not really a word that's used commonly in the marketplace, if you like. And we want to try and change that, because when you talk about prospering in every area of your life, that's a powerful word. It's a powerful word. But they get online. Now, if you go onto YouTube, you'll find a million people who will tell you how to make money. A lot of the times you're usually paying them something so that they can tell you. That's one way they make money. Nothing wrong with that. If it's a fair exchange, if it's a good value and it's exchange, that's fine. But they're not taking your circumstance into account. They don't know your goals and objectives. They don't know your risk profile. They don't know the situation with the kids. They don't know the debt that you've got. They don't know. That's all that's required in order to give you advice that's in your best interest. And if you're property focused, there's any number of people online that'll tell you that property is the way to go. Come with me and I'll show you how to buy 13 properties in the next 6 months with $20. Really? Really? If you're shares focused, there's any number of share trading software that'll tell you how to trade the markets. Oh, we trade the futures exchange. Overnight you set it up and by the morning it's traded the futures and all of a sudden there's some profit there. That's great. That's great. Okay? And what happens is people go, oh, well, that's the answer. I'll go over there. It doesn't happen. Now, I'm one of them. 20 years ago, I spent 10 grand on a share trading software because I got into share trading and it was something that I started to enjoy. So I'm speaking from experience. There's mistakes that I've made them. Right? One of the benefits of getting older is you get experience and you start to say, okay, I now know, I've got a good idea of what works and doesn't work. I'm not perfect, but I've got a pretty good idea because I've been there, done that. It's my field. And so anyone will tell you online, anyone that's willing to listen, they're happy to tell you what to do. So they get onto Google. The last one is they make a knee-jerk decision. I've seen this so often. Clients come in and they say, yeah, look, at 55, we haven't done enough. And what we did was we found some property group and we bought a property, 70 k's west of Brisbane. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not a property expert. I don't know what's happening 70 k's west of Brisbane, but when I did look into it, there's not a lot that's happening 70 k's west of Brisbane. Right? There wasn't a lot 10 years ago, and there's still not a lot happening. And these people, in terms of property purchase, because it was a low entry point, it was a low cost, people bought in. And, there was shopping centres, there was a train line that was going to be out there, and it was going to explode, and all things were going to happen, and it hasn't happened. And so we've got these people whose properties are worth less than what they paid for us, and now got more debt than they had before. Okay, so this is a knee-jerk decision that they make because it's like, gee, I've got to do something. And I get that because you start to get in your 50s and you go, okay, well, I've got maybe a bit over here. I've got a bit, but I need to do something else because I'm getting to 60 and 65 and I want to retire at some point and I don't have enough. If you remember, we had the discussion yesterday around, well, how much is enough? What do you need? And if you need about $80,000 a year, 80 to 100, well, that's between 1.6 and sort of $2 million of investment assets that you need, excluding your home. Right? That's the capital that you need to deliver that sort of income. And so when you get to your 50s and you go, okay, I've got an investment property worth $200,000 worth of debt. I've got my home, most of it's paid off, but I've only got $400,000 in equity in that property and I've got $300,000 in super. That's $700,000. That's not much. It's not enough. It's not enough. Okay, so these knee-jerk decisions, these are all mistakes that people make. Okay, next slide. So, over the last 30 years in working in this area, I've now developed this methodology called the 5 Ps. The 5 Ps to financial prosperity. So let me just briefly talk about this financial prosperity aspect and what that means. And I liken it to going to university because we're talking about a plan here and a plan to be prosperous at some point and to have enough in retirement, but we're not there yet. And so that doesn't mean you're not prospering, okay? Because when you get into university or a trade, You might start the first subject, first unit, first semester, and as you're passing, you are prospering during the years that you're at university or doing the trade. My son is fourth year electrical apprentice, and he's studying as well, and he's prospering. Now, he's in his final year, he'll get through it, and once he finishes it, he's prospered in getting his qualification. Okay? And so what we're doing is we're saying, okay, this is how you prosper and how you plan to prosper in reaching your goals and objectives. Now, we're going to go into a lot more detail this afternoon, so don't sweat too much about those details. We're going to go into those details. But priorities, you can see, is setting some priorities and some goals. Step 2 is we then probe into your situation. We look at some details. We personalise. We look at options and strategies that are, that we consider your circumstances. Then we produce the advice, and that's looking at, okay, well, let's now present our findings and our options to you. And then the 5th one is now we need to promote you and we need to stay on track. Okay, and that's about annual reviews and making sure that the plan that was set in place, 2 things happen. You're online, you're still working on that plan, but also any changes that need to happen, right? Life happens, stuff happens, and so we do need to sort of tinker with that from time to time and make some changes. All right, so that's the 5 Ps to financial prosperity. Next slide, Noel. Typically, we have a large range of clients. There's not one area of clients that we deal with. I mean, we're a financial services business and we deal with all sorts of clients. Typically, we deal best with clients that are frustrated with their position, right? That say, I'm not where I should be. I know I'm not where I should be and I want to change things. Why? Because we work best with these people because they're as committed as what we are. There's nothing worse than working, with a client who says, I'd like to. I like what I hear. And then you try and tee up the first appointment. Oh, no, I'm busy. We're on the client 2 weeks ago. Teed up an appointment. Urgently wanted to talk about his loan. So before we did anything else, I organised with our finance guy, got on the Zoom call. We'd set it up, teed it up. 1 o'clock. He hasn't turned up to the call. I said, look, we'll give him 5 minutes. 5 minutes, passes, 7 minutes, could jump on the phone. Hey, are you joining this Zoom call? Oh, yeah, nah, I'm up at Hayman Island. I'm just having a break. You didn't know that when you organised the call? Like, we've been sitting here waiting. It is what it is. We move on. But we're not going to work good with this guy. And at some point, he's either got to step up and be committed, or we're going to tell him there's other people that need this time more than obviously than you where you are at the moment, right? So we work best with people that are frustrated with their position. They have a strong desire to change, right? They've gotten to the point where it's just like, okay, I know I'm not where I need to be. Well, I've got to change and do something. And they're committed. We don't sort of deal with a lot of advisors, and Stefan would have seen this. A lot of advisors say, when I deal with high net worth clients, yes, no, I only take on people that earn more than $1 million a year. Okay, good for you. Good for you. I don't know if it's just me. I'm from the western suburbs of Melbourne, right? I just deal with the common person. I know. I grew up. Dad was a truck driver. They migrated from Greece in 1962. Mum was a cleaner. I used to go and help Mum clean. I used to get the vacuum cleaner on my back and vacuum 2 floors and give her a hand. I'm still in the western suburbs of Melbourne. No, I don't deal with we deal with high net worth clients, don't get me wrong. But it's not, we don't exclude everyone else because we've got a group of advisors and a business that says we want to help people prosper. And the clients that are high net worth, maybe they have prospered financially, but there's other areas that they haven't prospered. So we want to help them. And the ones that haven't prospered financially, usually that's their entry point into 3P. And again, we want to take them on that journey, with us. So what we're saying there is there needs to be good, strong cash flow. There needs to be some surplus cash for them to be able to say, okay, after I've paid my loans, after we've paid our living expenses, there's some money that we can work with. Because if there's, all my money's allocated, I have no surplus at all, well, how are you going to get anywhere? And for those clients, we take a step back and we say, okay, what we need to do for you is we need to get you onto our cash flow program to start to work through your cash flow and your finances and really get down to basics. Okay, so we do have an option down there. But typically when you're talking about planning, wealth creation, I want to get to, these goals, these objectives, you really need to have, some equity in your home. You need to have some surplus cash. You need to be earning some good, solid income, because when we take opportunity of tax strategies, if you're at that sort of top, that higher rate, then you get the best tax advantages, right? So we're maximising everything. But again, we're not excluding anyone. Okay. And we've found, next slide. And we've found that once clients have gone through this program, they now do have direction, right? They now know where they're heading. I heard a good analogy. I've got a good friend who, when he was young, his parents sailed around the world and they stopped at different ports. His dad was a sailor, so he learnt a lot. And he's a good friend of mine. He's a good mentor in this whole business space. And he talks about when they set for sail, there's a target. They want to get across to, say, that country and that port. They set sail. But obviously there's currents and there's winds and all sorts of things happen. So they have to adjust for it. And not only do they have to adjust for it, but as they're going, there's more adjustment that needs to happen. And, they need to get back on track. And that's life, isn't it? We sort of, I do want to get there, and we find out if we don't do enough planning, then we find out we'd end up there, we're over there. So it's important that these things are monitored and they're reviewed so that when a change does happen, when something all of a sudden comes out of the blue and there's an impact in life, we can just, we just need to make a few changes here, and bang, you're back on course. So we've found that clients say, I've now got no direction. I know what I need to achieve. I've got clarity. Okay, I now have some understanding. We spoke yesterday about having an understanding and being empowered to make decisions that are best for you. This is not just the advisor and saying, well, just trust me, I know it all, you need to listen to me, just do as I say. Okay, this is the advisor saying, I want to empower you. It's what our aim at 3P is to empower our clients and everyone that works in 3P, empower you to make decisions that are best for you and your situation. We'll give you the options, we'll make the recommendations. You get to look at it and you go, okay, that one makes sense to me. And I see now why. So there's direction and there's clarity. And the third one is confidence. They now have confidence in the advisor that they're dealing with, but they also have confidence in their own decision-making. Because Ziggy could disappear one day. I mean, if you find that I'm on the Bahamas and I'm doing a Zoom call with you on the Bahamas, you should get worried. Actually, or maybe if I'm Santorini. Don't be worried if I'm Santorini, because I will be doing that hopefully in the next few years. But if I'm in the Bahamas, if I'm in a tax haven, whatever it is, you're going, what's happened here, right? So if Ziggy goes crazy and you got your stuff sorted, it's not. We don't have access. An advisor should not have access to anything that you have. Okay, there's structures in place that don't. But you now have confidence, and you go, okay, Ziggy's not around. He passed on. He's moved on. He's done whatever. But I've got this. I'll go find another plan. I now need what I now know what I should expect. Okay, so you got confidence. And when you have confidence and you're empowered, there's no greater feeling. When you've done research on something, isn't it a good feeling when you've done research and you go, okay, I looked at those 3 companies, those 3 areas, and now I know I've selected that one and we're doing this and that's why we're doing this. And you go, I'm now confident, I'm empowered, I know we're making the right decision for us. Might not be the right decision for everyone else, but for us, this is the right decision and we're moving forward. So this is the feedback that we get from clients. And what it does is it unlocks peace of mind. We want to be able to do in all this, yes, we commit everything, God. There's no doubt we put our head on the pillow and we say, God, you've got this. He's backing us. Remember, he's backing us. But he also expects us to do stuff. There's steps that we need to follow. There's knowledge that we need. There's a foundation that we need to, what's that verse that says, who comes up and says, I'm going to build this house without actually doing the basic stuff? I mean, we all do it in every other aspect of our lives. We build a house, we got the engineer, we got the architect, we got this, we got that, And yet when it comes to our finances, for some reason for many years it's been taboo, and we're just sort of left on our own devices, and we end up hearing everyone's different views. We get confused, and then I'm not sure, I'll get to it one day. All the mistakes that, we went through before. But when you go through this process and you have this in place, you now have peace of mind. And the peace of Jesus just floods you, right? And he says, well done, I'm just going to continue to bless you. And if along the way and you've stepped out, whatever you've messed up, I've got your back. Remember, the wolf comes and just I'm glad it flicks me over there to safety, because I think I'm good sometimes, but I'm not. But he just, he's got our back, which I love. Okay? So we are going to cover in a bit more detail this afternoon those 5 Ps, and we're going to go through an exercise of, we won't do the whole lot because we just can't, but there will be aspects that we pull out. We're going to talk about 2 main things this afternoon. We're going to talk about your goals and objectives. I'm going to give you a structure where you can start to write them down and we can talk through them. We're also going to talk about your risk profile. Okay, what does risk mean? You would have heard the comment, shares is like gambling. Bricks and mortar is the way to go, mate. Yeah, because you can see it, you can feel it, you can touch it. There's truth in that, right? There's truth in that, but we're going to talk about what risk means. Everyone has a different idea about risk, so we're going to cover that. I'm done, Mr. Balestri.